It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. We're so glad you're joining us for the next 30 minutes or so. We hope we have a program that will give you a little bit of information about the University of Louisville, all the good stuff going on at your school, the University of Louisville. So coming up a little bit later in this show, the Affordable Care Act is still the source of plenty of political debate, even as Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin works to reel in the expansion of Medicaid. But there's no question that Obamacare and Kentucky Connect have had a dramatic impact on the number of uninsured people in the Louisville area and their ability to get health care. And we'll talk to a U of L researcher who's looking at ACA's impact on Kentucky and Louisville. But first, the University of Louisville Law School has consistently ranked among the top 100 nationally and boasts a number of outstanding faculty and alumni. The acting dean of the law school is Susan Duncan. She's here to talk to us about some new programs at the Brandeis School of Law and to talk about, I guess, the profession of law in general. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. All right. Well, you went to UofL Law School, didn't you?
I did. I'm a proud graduate.
You're a proud graduate. I'm not going to ask you what year you graduated.
I'll tell you, 1991.
Okay. Well, you look great for a 1991 graduate of the University of Louisville. Law school admissions around the country have been down in recent years. Why is that?
I think it's really a narrative out there that there's no jobs and it's too much debt. And unfortunately, that's just not true at University of Louisville. I mean, we consistently rank as a best value school. So it's a little bit, I think it's around 21,000 in state. So we're not the $50,000 schools that you're hearing about nationwide. And also, our employment statistics are excellent. If you go on our website, you can see the past few years' employment statistics. And we consistently have 85% of our graduates in JD required or JD advantage jobs. So our graduates are getting jobs, the jobs they want, and even
jobs in the field of law.
Yes, in the field of law. And there's always been a certain percentage that don't want to practice, that they've gone to law school for other reasons. So they're being placed in exactly what they want to do, and they wouldn't show up in that statistic. So it's just not the case that this narrative is true in Louisville, but unfortunately, that's out in the papers.
So that's obviously some of the things that you tell students who are considering going to law school. But what else do you tell students who are saying, like you said, that myth out there about the University of Louisville and all schools that they're going to be loaded with a bunch of debt, and they say, I just can't afford, $100,000 when I get out of college, so I'm not going to go to law school, even though I really want to. What do you tell that student?
Well, first of all, if you look at studies, lawyers consistently, even with the debt, will make much more money than other professions. So if you're just worried about the money part, I think if you look at these studies, you'll see that you're still going to make more money. Maybe not immediately, but over your lifetime you will.
Right.
So it's still a great
off.
Investment, yes, by far compared to other professions. But I also tell students, the baby boomers, there's a lot of baby boomers still practicing law. So in the next 5 years, you'll see those people get out of the practice. So this is the perfect time to go to law school when you have these small classes and these big group of attorneys exiting the practice. So people that are positioned will be ready to take advantage of it. Another thing is, a lot of students, especially in this generation, want to make the world a better place. They're mission driven. They want to do something that matters. There is nothing better than a legal degree to do that, whether you use it traditionally in practice or in other areas. And, life is complicated. There's a lot of complicated problems we're dealing with in society. And lawyers are almost always at the center of the solutions. I mean, that's what we teach you, how to be a problem solver.
And a lot of the kids, I take it, are going into social justice type programs, those types of things, and doing, working for the ACLU or whatever, things like that. Is that more and more what this generation of new lawyers is going into?
It's across the board. I mean, you definitely have those students that want to do the social justice kind of issues, but then you have ones that want to go into business. You have entrepreneurs. I mean, it just runs the gamut of what you can do, and that's why the law degree is so valuable, because it opens so many doors, and you might change what you do several times during your lifetime. This generation seems to do that also. So whether you use it traditionally or non-traditionally, it's going to open all those doors. It's going to prepare you a way of thinking that is different than any other training. And I think it's one of the most marketable degrees you have. If you have that JD behind your name, it will open doors for you.
We're talking with Susan Duncan, who's the acting dean of the UofL School of Law, the Brandeis School of Law at the University of Louisville. What do you attribute that there was this big downturn just all of a sudden? Was it the economy? Was it was it something that students were just worried about debt? What attributed that? And now it seems to be, like you said, coming around a little bit, that more and more students are getting back into law. So what caused the swing?
Definitely the recession with big law. So big law started to lay off a lot of people.
Corporate
in the
folks.
big law firms in New York and D.C.
Okay.
So obviously these very elite law schools that place all their graduates in those firms saw like extreme drop in the employment rates, which then spooked some students. Again, though, if you look at where we are employed, we weren't primarily in
We're
big
in
laws.
Louisville.
So it didn't impact us the same way it would have impacted Georgetown or Harvard or somewhere else. So unfortunately, though, that message is just
washed
a
up on
blanket
everybody else.
message, and it's taken us in when it's not true.
And U of L is starting a new program for students who want to go to law school but would like to cut the number of years. So explain what that program is.
So this is called a 3+3 program, and we work with different departments in the arts and sciences, and we will allow their students to come in their senior year, and that year will satisfy their fourth year. So they can start law school a year early. They don't have to take another year of loans if they need loans, and they'll get out into the workforce quicker. So many students by senior year are ready for a different kind of challenge, and I think that we will attract some bright, talented students from the University of Louisville to come to law school when they're in their fourth year.
And so is this only for U of L students who are going to school at U of L, or can people transfer in from another school after their junior year and start their senior year of law school at U of L?
So right now it's designed just for University of Louisville students for this next year. So criminal justice, women and gender studies, history, and liberal studies majors are allowed to do this from their departments. There are other schools, though, around the state that are contacting me that would also like their students to be able to do that. So I think in the near future, you'll see us start to work with some of those schools.
Right, gotcha. And that Western or somebody else
Exactly.
can transfer here and start law school early. And that saves them basically 1 year of tuition.
Exactly.
Law school tuition, correct?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
And how much?
Well, 1 year, I
well,
guess.
no, I guess it'd be half,
right,
because you'd
right.
still be paying the normal undergraduate tuition,
Right.
if they stayed for their fourth year,
Right.
not in law school. How many do you think you get? How many kids you think you'll get sign up for this?
It's hard to tell because it's so brand new. The advisors are just starting to tell the students. So this year might not be the right year to watch it because people haven't been prepared since their freshman year. But we already have several people from criminal justice that are interested in it that I've already heard about when it just, I think, went on the website last week in the press release. So I think we'll have, maybe 10 to 20 kids. More and more students come into college with high school credits, and they're able to do this quicker anyway. And I think it'll be very appealing.
And how many students do you normally have in a entering law school class? Is it
So last
100
year
or
we
so?
had 117,
Okay.
and we're hoping to be about at that number this year.
Okay, so it's roughly a tenth of 10% of your class you might
Right,
getting this 3+3
maybe.
program. So how do folks find out about it if they're interested, or their kids might be interested?
So if you go to the website, you can look it up under the Arts and Sciences website, and our website has it. Also, the advisors will be working with students they think have the potential to do this, and I'm sure that we'll be having fairs with the undergrads as they come back to campus.
We're going to take a break in just a minute, but I forgot to ask one question. What are the hot fields right now in law? What are law firms, corporations, et cetera? What are they looking for, and what are students looking for in which fields?
Well, definitely you mentioned at the beginning of the show the medical part, the ACA, so there's always going to be more regulations, and depending on what happens with the election, we might see a revamp. So I think that's going to be a constant for people in healthcare. So a lot of compliance work
Right.
because we're so heavily regulated in healthcare and other industries. The IT area is very hot. We can't get enough patent attorneys. So if we had more speed students, we would have jobs for them right away. Privacy, that's a big issue right now. I'd say labor and employment law. So there's lots of environmental law, still very hot field.
Okay, so those are the ones that students should be looking at if they're thinking, I might want to go to law school because I can do that. We're with Susan Duncan, who's the acting dean of the law school at U of L. Susan, you've got the 100th anniversary of Brandeis's confirmation to the Supreme Court this year. Louis Brandeis, who was from Louisville. And the law school's got some events and other things going on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the 100th anniversary of Brandeis's confirmation?
So it's been, a very special year for the law school to have this 100th anniversary. I don't know if all your listeners and viewers know, but Brandeis and his wife were actually buried right outside of the portico. So
I've mentioned it a few times, but that is the coolest thing on campus, in my opinion. The guy's buried outside the law school. You can walk right up on his grave.
And students always put money there. It's a tradition for good luck for their exams. So it's kind of funny. I know when exams are happening because the money starts to pile up. Yes. Yes. But we were very excited to celebrate this important anniversary and have had events throughout the year, several panels and different events. But the biggest events are going to happen this fall. So one of them will be September 15th. Justice Kagan will receive the Brandeis Medal. So if people would like to go to that, they should call the law school quickly because I think that will sell out.
For those of you who don't know who Justice Kagan is, that's U.S. Supreme Court Justice Elena Kagan.
Yes, yes. So we're very, anytime you have a Supreme Court Justice is a real privilege. Not very many law schools will have a Supreme Court Justice visit. So we're thrilled to welcome her. And then on October 19th, we will be up at the United States Supreme Court for a very special event with the Historical Society, and that will honor all the past Brandeis recipients. It's been since the early 80s that we've been giving this award. Very prominent jurists and lawyers and other people have received it. So we will celebrate all of them and talk about the legacy of Brandeis.
Very cool. So you got some cool stuff going on.
Yes, we do.
Tell us a little bit about the background of Louis Brandeis. I know he was born in Louisville, correct?
Right.
Went to Yale, I think. Am I
believe
right?
so, yes. And then he went to law school at Harvard, so he never did come back to Louisville, but he visited very much, and he had family in Louisville. He was known as the people's attorney, and that really is the impetus for our public service requirement. So he really believed in helping others with his law degree. And we've carried on that tradition with our law school.
And a great segue right there, because I was going to talk about your students. There is a requirement that they do some community service, so why don't you talk about that?
So they are required to do 30 hours, but on average they do 53 hours. One student last year did 700 hours while he was in law school.
What did he do? Just go out every day and work 10 hours?
He was amazing. And no, it's all legal work. All legal pro bono work. And that class graduated with almost 10,000 hours that they had given to this community. Wow. So it is a huge impact that our students do this, and it's great for the students because they get practical experience on what it's like to practice law. Mm-hmm. So they can put that on their resume, and at the same time, we're helping people that are less fortunate. We also have a clinic. I think the clinic's now over 1,200 women they've helped, mostly women in domestic violence situations. So another very important
component. Is that the law clinic? Is that what you call the law clinic?
The law clinic.
That's downtown, right?
Yes,
okay.
Downtown with the legal aid, under the legal aid office. So that's really important public service. And we have a brand new program called the Human Rights Advocacy Project. And we have human rights fellows, and they have been looking at refugee issues, non-citizen issues, and finding out what the needs are and then how the law profession can help meet these needs.
Talking with Susan Duncan, who's the acting dean of the UofL Law School. The students who are doing these different programs, like the law clinic, and you can talk in a minute about the Doctors and Lawyers for Kids, are they working with other lawyers, or are they pretty much on their own to figure out how to help these folks?
So they have limited license, which means they can actually go to court and appear in front of the judge and represent the client, but you have to have attorney supervision. So we do not let them out just on their own. That would be against our ethical rules. So we definitely don't do that.
No, we
so
don't want to be unethical, that's
yes,
for sure.
They are supervised closely, but we let them do it on their own. So we're just there to advise and help them, and we prepare them for these hearings. But they actually get to be real attorneys in the courtrooms with supervision.
Well, let's talk about the Doctors and Lawyers for Kids. What is that program?
So that program is in conjunction with the Louisville Bar Association and the medical school. So many problems that doctors see, really the health issues are because of a legal issue. So for example, let's say a child has awful asthma. Well, it might be that there's a mold issue in the apartment, and so they need attorneys to help work with the landlords to get that corrected. So the doctors can identify some common illnesses or problems, and then they get the attorneys involved to try to get to the root issue of what's causing those. So it's an excellent combination of disciplines and really helps this community.
One thing I really wanted to bring up was the program that we've got at Central High School with Joe Gutman,
Yes.
former prosecutor. Tell us about UofL's involvement with the kids at Central High School.
So that's a 15-year anniversary this year. So
Wow,
another
has it been that
special
long?
year. Yes,
Wow.
15 years. So we'll
Okay.
do something in the fall to really celebrate that. And we work with each of the classes in the law magnet. So we have street law program, a Marshall Brennan program, a writing program for sophomores to teach them how to write better essays. We have a competition. So we bring them out to the law school for special events so they have exposure to law professors, law students. And now we're seeing some of those graduates attend our law school. So it's very special to see people you worked with in high school actually now coming to the law school. And our hope is that it will diversify the profession with these talented young people at Central. So it's a very special relationship.
Right, and I suspect, as in most professions, there is not a lot of African Americans who are lawyers, at least in this town I know. So this is a way to get a lot of, that's the main population of Central High School, is to get some of those kids interested at the high school level. And I think they built like one of their classrooms is built like a courtroom?
Yes, it's a fabulous courtroom. If you haven't seen it, you should go down there. It's fabulous. And Seneca also has a courtroom now, and they have a very diverse population. So we've been working with them some too. And we've done some diversity projects where we've invited high school students from across the state and college students to come and learn about the legal profession, what law school's like, because we really need to start early to get them prepared to be able to be admitted and be successful.
All right. As law school dean, what's the toughest thing you have to do?
Oh, gosh.
Raise money?
No, I don't mind raising the money because I love this law school. It's my law school, so it's easy for me to go out and make the case for the students and the faculty. So that's not the toughest. Probably the constant budget cuts is tough to deal with when you think you're making a little progress and then you get cut again. And that's all of my colleagues, the other deans, feel that toughness too, I think.
Right.
So that's probably
That's
the
the toughest
hardest
thing
thing is that we're trying to do things on very little resources, and it's a shame that the state doesn't appreciate what we're doing
Yeah,
more.
welcome to a state university, right?
Right.
And what would you tell, as we kind of wrap things up here, what would you tell folks about the law school that you're super proud of?
Well, this year we had a great year. I mean, we were #1 bar passage rate. So last July, our students passed at about an 86%, I think, rate, and the state average was 79%. So that makes you very proud that they're all passing the bar in great numbers. We also, I know they were on your show, but we had the national champions of labor and employment law competition. So we weren't too worried about the basketball team this year. We brought home that banner for UofL, and we'll continue to bring home many more, I hope. And I'm just proud. Our students every day and our faculty are quiet leaders. We're a tiny unit on campus, but our impact is broad. I mean, when you think that our alums are the ones that did the gay marriage case, our alums are the ones that are leading corporations downtown and throughout the world. Our alums are the head people in the legislature. I mean, our alums are the ones that are helping people that don't have a voice. I mean, that's pretty special to think that we are that all over any discipline and any field, and that those are Brandeis Law School alums. So I think your UofL listeners can feel very proud that their law school is making such an impact with the students and then as alums.
All right, very good. Susan Duncan from the UofL School of Law. She's the acting dean. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
All right, good to see you too, Susan. Susan Buchino is the research manager for the Commonwealth Institute, which is in the School of Public Health and Information Sciences at the University of Louisville. And she and her colleagues have been looking at the impact of the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, on the people of Kentucky, and they've got some other research projects going on. So welcome, Susan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit. What is the Commonwealth Institute? Tell me what that is first.
The Commonwealth Institute of Kentucky is a new research institute that was founded with money from Kentucky One Health. And the mission of the Institute is to inform policy and practice that will improve the health of populations in Kentucky and beyond by facilitating and supporting transdisciplinary collaborations for research and data analytics.
Oh, that's a mouthful. So what's that mean in common man's terms? What's that mean?
All
to,
of that
to me and
means
you?
is that we're trying to reach beyond just public health. We know that the health of a community is impacted by multiple factors across sectors, which means that research has to come from different places and not just from public health to actually impact health and improve health. So
So you might take some national research. You might take some stuff that you guys work on, some stuff at the medical school, perhaps.
Correct. So
private
we've got
foundations.
Correct. So we've got right now some partnerships within the medical school. We've got partnerships within the business school. We've got partnerships with Vanderbilt right now, working on a project. So not just within UofL,
Gotcha.
but reaching across disciplines and across universities.
And what are some of the specific, you actually mentioned in an email to me, some of the specific projects that you all are working on. So just kind of describe one or two of them briefly, and then we can go into some detail about those.
Sure. Right now we are looking at specifically Louisville's implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And one of our projects is looking at the remaining uninsured population, what that looks like, the demographics, how they use services. That's going to be really important as we move forward with any changes.
Which may happen.
Which may happen, just in how people enroll in health insurance and the Medicaid expansion. We've got a project looking at community orientation of hospitals. Community orientation is how hospitals actually go beyond the hospital walls and interact with the community, again, to address some of the other issues that impact health besides healthcare. And so
you're talking about clinics and those kinds of things that hospitals do or not?
not just clinics, but some maybe non-traditional community-based projects. So how do they address
schools or
schools, some of the social determinants, which education and poverty, economic status, transportation. So beyond just getting health care, how is the community able to be healthy?
Gotcha. All right. Well, hold on to that list. I want to back up
Okay.
a second for the ACA and its impact on Louisville. And is it specifically Louisville, or are you looking at the whole state?
We've done a little bit of both.
Okay. And you said it was the impact on the folks that were still uninsured. So there's still a population in Louisville
Yes.
that, despite the Obamacare, I'm going to call it, and the expansion of Medicaid, still don't have health insurance.
Correct.
How many people is that? Do you know?
I don't know how many people that is. It's fairly low in numbers. Most of them go to our federally qualified health centers, so Family Health Centers, Park Duval, Shawnee Christian Healthcare, and then we have a community clinic, family community clinic that is free and takes anyone without health insurance. So there are 4 places in town that see a lot of the uninsured population. So what we've done is collect data from them, and we're going to analyze that data. We haven't gotten all that analyzed yet, but we've also done some interviews with uninsured individuals about why they're still uninsured to try to understand what barriers persist. Immigrants and refugees.
Those are the ones that are still uninsured, haven't signed up for any
Correct.
insurance?
It's a little bit more difficult if you're an immigrant to get and to qualify for Medicaid. And
what has your initial research shown about the impact of ACA specifically on the folks who were uninsured in Louisville? Are they, I guess they're signing up, most of them, it
Yes.
sounds like. And if they do, are they getting preventive health care that perhaps is actually going to cut the cost of health care down the road, or are they just not using it? What's happening?
they are using it.
Okay.
They are using it. One of the studies I specifically looked at mental health in West Louisville, and there's an extreme need for mental health care in West Louisville. The Medicaid expansion population has been using services. There are still barriers, though.
Such
There are
as?
still providers. The number of providers hasn't changed since.
So they're having a tough time getting appointments.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So provider capacity is the same. And then there are very few providers that actually practice in West Louisville. So then there's transportation issues. Very few providers that accept Medicaid for behavioral health needs. So just having their insurance accepted. So they will use it if it's available. They are accessing it where it is. but there are still barriers specifically for mental health care. They are accessing care for preventive care and preventive services.
So I think the whole idea of the ACA, I think one of the main goals was to get people out of the emergency rooms, to keep them when they got sick or just needed to see a doctor about a bump on their back. They'd go to the doctor. Has that happened in Louisville? You said folks are going for preventive medicine. Are they going and staying out of the emergency rooms, or has that not been cut? Or do you know?
The Kentucky Hospital Association says that emergency room has continued to increase.
Really?
We also have looked at health literacy, which is understanding and accessing health care based on the knowledge that you have or the information that's available to you. And we've kind of started thinking about health literacy in a couple different ways. Dr. Nesbitt, when she was here at the health department, as we pulled this together, kind of coined terms health insurance literacy and health systems literacy, as well as what we typically think of in health literacy as health behavior literacy. So the health behavior literacy is don't smoke, practice, exercise, eat well. But the health systems literacy is getting the right care in the right place at the right time and understanding what resources are available to you. So when do you buy over-the-counter medication? When do you see your primary care physician? When do you go to an urgent care versus an emergency room? That still has a lot of work to be done.
Right. I got you.
And then health insurance literacy is a whole nother world. Insurance is overwhelming and confusing, and we've heard that repeatedly. The connectors that are in Louisville and in Kentucky, the assisters that have helped people enroll in health insurance have been invaluable resources for people, because once they've enrolled them, they'll go back to them and ask them questions again. Right. And so they're navigators.
Once they made that personal connection, they're not afraid to say, hey, I got the thing on my back. Should I go to a doctor? What should I do?
Right. Okay. And so we're working with people to try to learn those skills. Louisville's done a great job in outreach and enrollment, and they're continuing to work. The Board of Health commissioned a couple committees a couple years ago as this started, and so there's continuing work through that.
All right, we got just a couple minutes left. What are some of the other research studies that you're working on, that the Institute is working on?
Well, I can tell you that one that was completed and published recently in Health Affairs was a study by Dr. Benitez and Dr. Creel and Dr. Jennings, and they used behavioral risk factor surveillance survey data, and they analyzed almost 10 years of that and looked at the impact of Medicaid expansion in Kentucky on specifically the low income population. And so they saw that the percent of uninsured low-income individuals in Kentucky went from 35% in 2013 to 11% at the end of 2014. So really specifically, the ACA has impacted that low-income population. And
that's a good thing. But now, again, as we said, that could change because Governor Bevin has proposed some changes to the Medicaid expansion. So
correct. And we also, I've talked to people about the use of Connect. So I did a qualitative study talking to people around the state using Connect to enroll in either Medicaid or qualified health plans and private insurance plans. And based on that research, again, people find insurance overwhelming and confusing, and that face-to-face assistant is really important. So if Connect goes away and changes, there will be other consequences to enrollment as well, because the method of enrolling in health insurance will change and be more complicated.
And more confusing for those folks. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see if the governor gets his waiver from the feds on that one. All right, Susan Buchino, Research Manager for Commonwealth Institute at the University of Louisville. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville, and go Cards.